What's up, guys? What's going on? Hey, how are you doing? Once again, welcome back to another episode of Eddie G's Comic Culture. I am your host, Eddie G, and I'm here today with another episode, bringing it to you live, guys. First and foremost, the show is still sponsored by the beautiful folks over at Black Apparel. Sending a special shout out to a good friend and brother of mine, Kevin Seawright. Thanking him once again for all the work and the contributions that he's done for the show. I really appreciate it. Trust me, if it wasn't for him, the show wouldn't be taken off the way it is. And I also want to make sure you guys check out his website. He's got some great content as well as some merchandise. So in case you guys have a couple of he's got some change in your pockets, you want to splurge on something, check it out at www.blackapparelblk.com. And as usual, I will always send a shout out to my boys on Instagram. First and foremost, the Strictly Comedy Vault. He's a young up and coming writer. He's got some great photos on his page. He's constantly keeping it refreshed with brand new material. Make sure you check him out if you have an account. And also sending a special shout out to Blu-ray Dan, who also has not only an Instagram account where he keeps it constantly updated every day, like literally every day, guys. And he's got some good stuff on there too, unboxings for Blu-rays, so on and so forth, Ultra 4K. But he also has his own YouTube channel, and he's one of the main inspirations I had for doing this show. So make sure you check him out as well, because he's got some great reviews for movies from back in the days up until the present, what you got now, and it's really great stuff, man. I'm not even lying. And last but not least, a good friend of mine from New York by the name of Dennis Knight. He works. He's got a book. He's got his own comic book out on an indie label, Pronto Comics. He's actually going to be out in New York Comic Con this weekend at the Javits Center. So if you guys have any tickets, you want to check out anybody at the artist section or it's actually, I got his booth number right here. So if you could just excuse me for one moment while I get that information from you. Yes, it's 966 Pronto Comics, the small press section. So he's gonna have his material laid out there for you guys to check out. Make sure if you have any tickets, make sure you stop on by and see what you can get. Today's been a pretty crazy day. Of course, it's Monday. I'm back from my birthday weekend from hanging out with my wife and daughter. And like everyone else, we woke up to the horrible news of the tragedy that happened out in Las Vegas. So I'm sending all of my thoughts and condolences to the families and friends of out there who have that all have been affected by this terrible tragedy. It's really shit. It's really shitty that things like this have to happen at this day and age. But we just gotta find it in our will we just gotta find the strength in our willpower to move on. So with that being said, I want to discuss things on a much more brighter note. We're gonna discuss. It seems like Warner Brothers and DC Comics seems to be in full swing with the I don't know. I made this episode last week, but it seems like they're pretty much in full swing about the Justice League film. It looks like promotions are going underway heavy right now, and that's understandable considering at this point the film is a little less than a month away. A little bit more than a month away. Excuse me, but it looks pretty great. They've released a whole bunch of new character posters, which is pretty awesome. There's been a lot of articles dropping left and right regarding the DC. First of all, it was never called the DCEU. That was supposedly an extended joke. Apparently, one of the reps had spoken to one of those publishings. I forgot these man. I know it's not Empire, Vulture, if I'm not mistaken. They said that DCEU label was just a joke. It started off as a joke and it was never something serious. However, if I'm not mistaken, last year Zack Snyder kind of went full force with it, at this point. But they're all saying that a lot of articles have been coming out that one saying that the movies aren't going to be connected the same way Marvel is. Then they're going to say that, then another article comes out with Jeff Johns saying like, yes, the movies are connected. I imagine that, I imagine they're going to be connected to an extent where they're not just going to have one big plot to look forward to. So like the MCU has been building up so long, for the last couple of years for the Infinity War, which, it's cool. It makes sense. It makes a hell of a lot of sense actually, because there's a lot of villains in the Justice League Rogue Gallery for them to go ahead and touch up on. They don't need to just blow They don't need to just blow their top all over on Dark Side, just yet, to be quite honest. Even though he's really not, well, so far, he's not confirmed as the main villain for Justice League. But it looks pretty great to see a lot of the stuff that's going on. Within the last week, it's been noticeable. A lot of, I think the studio executives are really trying to shy away right about now from BVS and Suicide Squad mainly. I don't think they really want, it's it's good, but at the same time, it has to be heartbreaking for this man, because I know this was basically, a lot of this was started by Zack Snyder. But as I said before, and I'll say it again, I always voiced my displeasure with how he was handling things after the fact of Man of Steel. The way things were handled in Dawn of Justice was a complete mess. His influence over the Suicide Squad as well was completely, it was just useless. Honestly, the only thing he had, the man was just a visual kind of guy, and WB really overutilized him. You know, it said it was. I read an article at some point that Jeff Johns wanted Man of Steel to be much lighter than what it was, and it made sense for that to happen. But now he's in. A lot of people were like, "Oh, that's BS," because there's no way that he can be like that when he has when he supported, when he was like, well, they started pulling out articles, of course, of when he was voicing his excitement for Man of Steel and how he loved it, this, that, and a third. You gotta understand, man. You when you work for an employee, when you're an employee, you work for a company. You really can't badmouth who you're working for publicly to anybody like that, because that'll cost you your job, and that goes with any job that you have. You can't really go on record to any publication, to any newsreel, to anyone like that, to say, it's one thing to talk crap about your job to your friends, but it's another thing when you go outside of that circle and you start speaking to the public about it. And a lot of the fans didn't really get that. A lot of the Snyder purists didn't really get that, which is a little strange to me. Like, I can't understand exactly why he has such a loyal fan base. It's scary at the same time. Like, it's really scary, because he's not that great of a filmmaker. And what happened was what I predict. And I'm not claiming to be a psychic or anything of that nature. But what happened was I knew what was going to happen. The inevitable was going to happen. One of his peers, who were assigned to do the upcoming solo projects, all it needed was for one of them to make a more successful, more cognitive, more coherent, and enjoyable film to watch, for that to overshadow everything that he's done. And realistically speaking, that's what happened with Wonder Woman. Even then, when Wonder Woman was released, people still started saying, "Oh, but he wrote the movie. He was not the main writer of the movie. There was two other writers. He was there with the treatment for the story, but there was two other writers that wrote Wonder Woman as well. So he is not to be mainly attributed to it." And honestly speaking, that was really Patty Jenkins who brought that vision to life the way she did. So again, that argument was completely moot. There was nothing about it, and that's the crazy thing about it, is that he has such loyal, cult-like fans. Like, it's strange and scary. It really is. It's odd. It's a very odd group. They haven't been as vocal as of recent, obviously, for obvious reasons, and it's. This Justice League is pretty much a toss-up, because even though the majority of the film is literally directed by Zack Snyder, the piece there was intricate there was reshoots that were made, that of course we all know Joss Whedon, who was of the Avengers fame. He directed both Avengers and Avengers: Age of Ultron. He finished up the film. He finished up not just post-production, but he finished up the film for him. So at the very least, it's going to be difficult to say how. I'm not saying that we're gonna. I believe we're gonna. I believe we as fans are gonna notice the difference. Honestly speaking, I really believe that we as fans are gonna notice the difference. How much of a difference is it gonna be noted? How much of a difference, will be noticeable? We have to wait and see. Unfortunately, that's the part that sucks. But a lot of the stuff that's been going on, pretty much with a lot of the articles, with the Vulture article, it seems very much so. It's very clear. WBDC are distancing themselves from Snyder now. They don't really They don't want to have. He's not the driving force anymore. He's just an executive, and honestly, he's actually lucky to just be an executive producer, because you know he really is greatly at fault for it. And I'm really, I don't swipe at anybody like that, but the man's work really was flawed when it came to Dawn of Justice. It was just a hodgepodge of scenes. And you know at one point I remember reading, I was thinking to myself the other day, I was like, I remember reading how he said that he was a comic book guy. Being a comic book guy, I mean, let me tell you something. Being a comic book guy entails reading and comprehension of the material. You don't just look at the pictures and look and say to yourself, "Oh shit, man, that looks awesome as hell. I think I could put that on camera." He does a great job at doing that. I'm not knocking that. I'm not taking that away from him. But at the end of the day, he has to learn how to execute these stories a lot more coherently on screen, because it hasn't really worked. It hasn't worked at all, honestly. You know, and realistically speaking, Wonder Woman was a saving grace. However, you know, the way he had to exit the film and the way he had to exit the universe wasn't the most. Is definitely not the way anyone should ever. Forget admirable. It's just not the way anyone would ever want to exit from their job. For any but that's just not something nobody should. That's never not anyone should not have to go through that. And that's a tragic loss that you know it's unexplainable. But at the very least, like they should have done something about this prior to that. They should have done some. Warner Brothers and DC should have been on top of this, on top of that prior to that. We all know the rumors that there was problems on Justice League to settle on during Justice League's production, because the execs over at Warner Brothers were giving him shit, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. Dawn of Justice really didn't deliver the way it should have. It really wasn't even Batman versus Superman versus one. It wasn't even really Batman and Superman's movie. It was Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne featuring Diana Prince. Realistically speaking, this is just how and that's a true story. Like you see them, you see Batman, what, two or three times out of the movie. Superman is sprinkled around here and there. But Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne are in there like you wouldn't believe. Through and through. And that's not what the people paid for. And that's not what the people wanted to see. That people were not interested in seeing a 3-hour movie of the world's finest. Not done not on that not in that form that he was delivering, and not all chopped up and completely shitted out. Regardless of the studio's involvement, regardless of the studio's involvement. Because let's face it, even with the Ultimate Edition and seeing what the movie really was like, how it panned out in its original entirety, it still wasn't that. It wasn't that great to save the movie. It really wasn't. So them to top to make matters worse, Snyder also had a huge influence over the Suicide Squad feature, which was another cluster, and you can't get mad at these guys. You really can't get mad at the executives at that point, because they're dumping they're dumping a big chunk of money to these productions, and they want their profits back. That's completely understandable. And if it can't get made because it's not great, and then the bad word of mouth shuts it down, you can't do it. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna fly for that. They're not gonna go for that. So with that being said, it's definitely evident. It's clear right now that DC and Warner Brothers are now shying away from those films, and it was expected. It was that on my end. It was definitely expected, because there was no way that they were going to carry on and move to another direction, still holding that influence over them. Now all we need is to have a proper sequel to Man of Steel with a decent director. I know Matthew Vaughn has been in talks for it for quite some time. I heard Kingsman, Golden Circle hasn't really been hitting too well. God knows, the reason why, but I haven't seen it yet. So I can't give an honest review. But Definitely, I would love to see what's going on. I can't wait to. All this is doing, all this hype, this shrouded mystery. Everything that's been shrouded in mystery with what's been going on as of recent with the Justice League has actually made me more excited to see what the turnout of the film is going to be. Some people still have their doubts, of course, and that's deservedly so. It's honest, and what really sucks is what's really going to suck about this, and Warner Brothers already knows it, is that they're going to take that hit because of the previous two movies. Wonder Woman was not enough to give this, even though Wonder Woman was close, Wonder Woman was very close. However, Justice League will not hit that $1 billion mark. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. And that's because of the influence and the previous features. So, it's, whether you guys agree with me or not, this is in the best interest for the franchise to sever the Snyder ties completely. Keep him on as an executive producer, but do not have him behind the lens. Do not have him in the writer's room, because that's where you're having trouble. And again, also, unless he's working with, and that brings me to another person who I think that if he doesn't have a group of other established writers with him as well, is just as much a poison. David Goyer. David Goyer can be very poisonous to your film. If you let him take complete control of your movie with the writing, if you let him take complete writing credits for all of it, it's over. So you can't have that. You gotta put the chip. These guys have to put these chips in the right place, because the Justice League is gonna be the bounce back for this. That's exactly what this movie is. It's gonna be this movie is meant to be the bounce back. That's why they brought in Joss Whedon. I don't give a shit what the other articles say. You don't get a guy that directed two films that were both $1 billion plus each at the box office to do pickup shots. I don't care how good of a friend he is to Zack Snyder. I really don't. It doesn't matter, because you don't just get a guy that's hired like that to do something, just to do regular pickup shots. Granted, the fact that the reason why these reshoots took so long was because everyone else was these guys were were flown in from all parts of the world to take care of it. They were on other movies, they were on other projects, they were filming, and that's, you can't blame them for that. So, I'm really anxious to see what the turnout of this movie is going to be like come November. More so than I am with Thor Ragnarok. The only reason why I'm actually anxious for Thor Ragnarok is for two things: Loki and Hulk. Because and Chris Hemsworth has always been great as Thor. I'm sorry, there's nothing personal against him, but the other two movies, his movies, are just absolutely stale to me. Those first two movies were so stale. The first Thor movie was unbelievably boring, like Avatar boring. I'm like, what the hell, man? But this looks like it's definitely gonna bounce back on the right track. Whether it leads to a fourth film being made, I don't know. But November's looking pretty sweet. So, anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. But once again, you already know the deal. You know the drill. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, comment sections right below. Make sure you hit that up. Anything you want me to talk about in future episodes, or if you want to have a discussion about with the material with me myself, also, that's what the comment sections are for. Make sure you hit that up. Giving you guys a preview real soon. I'm working on some new material for the show. I'm going to be talking about some other topics as well. I know I'm pretty late with this one because of the recent events that have been happening in my personal life, but I will be discussing I'm actually planning on doing an 80s wrestling tribute. So it's basically going to be a WWE, well, since it was the 80s, it's going to be WWF tribute episode. I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of these cats. That's definitely one of the episodes I'm looking forward to showing you guys, to giving you guys out there. But if you have any other suggestions, anything that you want to see me do, let me know, man. Definitely, I'll hook it up. I'll do what it takes. So on that note, I'll make sure you guys stand strong, take it easy, and keep your heads up always. And until then, I'll see you next time. All right, take care.